Christians, you are called to live all of life for Jesus. That's what we've been talking about throughout this series. And I hope it's been encouraging to you. I hope it's been challenging in some areas. And perhaps it still leaves remaining questions. Well, this is our last week, and we don't have ability perhaps to address every question that might be remaining. But hopefully some of the questions that are generated are helpful, and you're able to dive deeper yourself in your personal study or with others. But two questions that we specifically want to address as we finish out and close out this series are, how do I find my calling? Perhaps you're in the midst of a transition yourself, and specifically with this idea, we're talking about your vocation, your work type calling. And so how do you assess that? What are you thinking about? Maybe you're looking at a transition, a job transition, or maybe you are a student, or you have those in your life that are wrestling through these questions. And hopefully we'll give a good framework to think through and assess how do we find our calling in a biblical way. And also, another question that perhaps has come up and you've been wrestling through it throughout this series is, how do we balance all these various callings that we have? We said that we are called ultimately by Christ, to Christ, for Christ, and how we live that out in several secondary callings. But how do those secondary callings relate to one another? How do we seek to wisely live them out in this life? And we want to address that as well. And so those two big questions, how do we find our calling and how do we balance our callings, will be our focus for this final sermon in this series. And I'm excited to look at Scripture and what it has to teach us, whether you've been part of this series this whole time, or maybe you're just exploring maybe local churches, or you're interested in this idea. Either way, it'll be a great time for you to jump in and to get kind of the summary of a lot of the threads that we've already addressed throughout this series. And so hopefully you can come, whether you've been part of the series or not. Also, our Equipping the Saints time will be this week from 9 to 10. That's a time of adult Bible learning. We're looking through several spiritual disciplines. We'd love for you to join us in that. And then from 10 to 10:30 is a coffee time. And then our service is at 10:30. And we would love for you to join us as we worship our God together.